Hey everyone, and welcome to today's presentation, Relationship Strategies, 5 Steps to Fixing Your Relationship and Falling in Love All Over Again. My name is Jonathan Hyde, and I'm going to guide you through the most effective form of relationship help you've likely never heard before, so it's great to have you here. Now, I'm sure you've been to some other webinars before where they waste your time, they don't provide any real information, there's a lot of preamble and games they play, and you're just like, dude, get to the good stuff already. That's not how I like to run my webinars. You're here looking for some real information on how to fix your relationship, and that's exactly what I provide. I don't want to waste anyone's time, so I hope you don't mind if I just dive right in. This webinar is for anyone who's in a relationship who's struggling to adapt to the relationship lifestyle. So that means if you're having arguments, or you're feeling rejected, or if you're having a hard time understanding your partner, really, if you're looking to fix your relationship, then this is for you. In the next 40 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the exact strategy my clients use to fix their relationship and fall in love all over again. That means you're going to discover the secret formula to understanding yourself, your partner, and your relationship without having a degree in psychology or reading 1,000 books and trying to figure out how all that information correlates to your unique relationship. I'm going to explain how to recognize and find strength in you and your partner's differences, even if you think you have nothing in common or your personalities are like night and day. You're going to hear what my clients did to put a stop to feeling rejected in their relationship and how they turned it around to work in their favor, even when they thought there was no hope. You're going to learn how to break through that brick wall of trying to change your partner so you can finally feel like you're on the same page working with each other instead of against each other. What you need to do to fall in love with each other all over again and take it to the next level, even if your relationship is currently in the trauma stage. And lastly, how to finally ease the loneliness and move from roommates back to soulmates, even if you've been drifting apart for months. My promise to you is a simple, clear, step-by-step strategy to understanding and fixing your relationship. So the time you spend with me here today is going to be the best 40 minutes you spent working on your relationship. Now, before we get into the good stuff, I just want to lay out some ground rules. If you're the type that blames everything on your partner and refuses to take responsibility for your own actions, then this is not for you. I don't want any complainers who just want to vent out their frustrations or self-serving victims. Now, if you're a legitimate victim of abuse or anything illegal, that's not what I'm talking about. A self-serving victim is someone who likes to play the victim role and doesn't actually want to change their current circumstances. In fixing your relationship, it's important that you understand the differences between you and your partner. But if you're looking to use this information to manipulate or gaslight your partner, I can tell you it doesn't work that way anyway. Now I just want to take a moment and check in with you, and feel free to use that chat box and let me know if any of this sounds like you. Do you fall asleep at night depressed and wake up worried that your relationship and feel that there's no end in sight? Do you outwardly pretend everything in your relationship is fine, but silently suffocate from rejection, hurt, and feeling let down? Do you constantly push your partner to pay more attention to you but feel rejected when they shut you out? Are you constantly replaying arguments in your head over and over again looking for where things went wrong? Do you feel like that wonderful person you fell in love with changed and mutated into a total stranger you don't even recognize anymore? Do you lay awake 2 feet from your partner thinking that they might as well be 2 miles away? Do you see other couples who seem so happy and carefree and in love with each other and wonder what they have that you don't? And lastly, are you worried that if nothing changes, you're headed to break up? Now, if any of that sounds like you, I've got good news for you. None of those things that we just talked about are the real problem. Those are just the symptoms. The real problem is that you haven't made what I call the shifts to understanding. And we're going to talk about what those are in just a second, but for right now, just know this. Once you make them, you're going to be able to take back control and pull your relationship back from the brink of destruction. You're going to be able to finally put a stop to feeling rejected and being shut out and get back to the passion and excitement of the early days. You'll be reintroduced to that person that you fell in love with in the first place. You're going to finally feel free to be your natural, happy, and joyful self again instead of walking eggshells around your partner. You're going to discover not only how to embrace each other's differences, but to actually find strength in those differences. And finally, you're going to be able to use all that and more to take your relationship to the next level. Now before we go too much further, let me just take 2 seconds to introduce myself so you know who I am and why the hell you should listen to me. My name is Jonathan Hyde, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist who went to the best hypnotherapy college in the nation, the Hypnosis Motivation Institute in Tarzana, California, and I chose my specialty to be in relationships. There's a reason for that, and I'll tell you at the end of the webinar. Anyway, I've been practicing for over 10 years helping individuals and couples heal themselves from deep or complex subconscious problems. Now, one of the things that really sets me so far apart from other therapists out there is that I'm what's called an empathic psychic, and that helps me to truly understand my unique clients, their unique personality, and the best course of action to overcome their unique problems. So that means when I do a reading for someone, I can quite literally feel their energy and their emotions. And because of that, I don't have to ask 1,000,001 questions trying to get to know my client, because when I shake their hand, I already know them. In working with my clients, I discover the best method to overcoming any problem in a relationship is to truly understand one another. It's at the very core of a healthy relationship. So that means understanding yourself, your motivations, what drives you, why you do the things you do, and so on. Once you understand yourself, then you can understand your partner. Their differences, what drives them, and so on. And that, of course, helps you to understand your relationship. With that level of understanding, problems just seem to vanish. Each of the following shifts I'm about to show you in the next slide ties into the next shift, and they all have one thing in common, which I explain at the end of each shift. The reason other couples weren't successful in fixing their relationship is because they weren't following these 5 shifts. Nobody teaches what I teach. Nobody else does what I do. That's why I'm so sought after, and that's why I don't have to advertise my hypnotherapy practice. So the very first shift of the 5 shifts you need to make is the secret formula to lasting relationships. It's really the secret formula to life. This formula is so simple it amazes me that other therapists haven't caught on to it yet. The simple formula to relationships is knowledge plus experience equals understanding, okay? So knowledge plus experience equals understanding. Without knowledge, your experience only gives you half the story, and vice versa. Without experience, your knowledge only gives you half the story. When we go to school as kids, they teach us things like math, science, and history, but what they don't teach us are the things that we really need in life, like how to sustain a relationship, how to communicate effectively, or what our emotions mean and how to move past them and move through them. I'll give you an example of this formula. You can read all the books you want about what it's like to have your own family. You can interview couples, watch documentaries, and observe other families, but without the experience of having your own family, you only have half the story. So it's impossible for you to fully understand it because you only have half the info. Or it could be the other way around. You can experience having your own family, but if you don't have the knowledge of how to keep the family together and stable, then you only have half the story. And that means it's impossible for you to reach a point of understanding. In order for you to fully understand the family life, you have to have both knowledge and experience, then you'll be able to reach a point of understanding, and then things just run smoothly and you're living your best life. So you can see now how knowledge plus experience equals understanding. Once we have both knowledge and experience in place, we reach a point of understanding. The second shift you need to take is understanding your relationship. But in order to do this properly, in order for you to cross that bridge and meet your healthy relationship on the other side, it needs to be done in the right order. So don't go to try to understand your partner. At least not yet. Don't go try to jump across that bridge. You're only going to fall. And guess where you're going to land? You're going to land at step 1. And that very first step is you. Once you understand yourself, then you can understand your partner. So it starts with you. I know you're eager to dive in and find out exactly what it is that makes them tick so you can get your relationship work again, but everything starts with you, okay? It starts with you. I can't say this enough times. It starts with you. In order for us as a society to fix global warming and start taking care of the place that we live in, it starts with you. In order to fix what's going on in our political system, it starts with you. In order for us to fix our race relations, it starts with you. In order to fix what's going on in your very own personal relationship, it starts with you. How do you expect your partner to accept and love you if you don't even love and accept yourself? You wouldn't believe how many clients I've had who came in thinking that they were there to solve a problem that originated from outside of them. It wasn't until they did the deep down work and discovered that it was them the entire time. They were creating it and they didn't even know it. They were attracting it and they didn't even know it. So when I say that it starts with you, I really mean exactly that. So once you really understand yourself, then you can understand your partner, so you have something to put into perspective. And when you do understand yourself and your partner to a really deep down level, you're going to find that you have a lot of differences that you didn't know before, and all the things you have in common as well. You know that chemistry that people talk about? You know what that is? That chemistry is your differences that you didn't even know that you had. It's what brought you together in the first place, because opposites attract. So you're one way, but your partner is a whole other different way. So it was the differences that brought you together, but it was your commonalities that kept you together, like your morals, outlook on life, your perspectives, and so on. Now here's the thing. Your differences are on a subconscious level, but your commonalities are on a conscious level. You already know that what you do have in common, and that's because those are your surface traits. But it's the traits below the surface, the subconscious traits, which are where our differences lie. And that's where the chemistry is. So the only way you're going to understand these two very different people is by learning about their differences and experiencing them in your own unique relationship. Let's take a look at one of my clients I had a few years ago. Yolanda was this 20-something-year-old girl, and by the time that she contacted me, she had had it with her relationships. She didn't know what it was that was causing her to get into relationship after relationship with closet drug addicts. She herself wasn't even into drugs of any kind. And I say closet drug addicts because she didn't know that they were drug addicts until they got together. So what do you guys think it was that was causing her to attract so many different closet drug addicts in her life? Use the chat. What do you think she was doing subconsciously or projecting out there that drew all those closet drug addicts? Any ideas? Any clues? Don't know? Well, I knew that it had to start with her. I mean, there was obviously something going on subconsciously that was causing this. So I started at the beginning of the bridge so I can walk her safely to the other side of a healthy relationship. In working with her, I asked her what her parents were like. She described her mom as a stay-at-home mom who was kind and gentle but always fair with her discipline. She loved her mom, but she really loved her dad because he would always come home and always had a big smile on his face when he looked at his baby girl. He was very loving, very affectionate, and just an all-around great dad. She described how her mom was always mad at dad for some reason, but her parents did a good job of hiding their disagreements so it wouldn't affect their daughter. It wasn't until she was older when she was talking to her mom and she found out what was causing so much tension in her parents' relationship. Her mom said that her dad would always come home late and just disappear for long periods of time. He would act weird, smell funny, and was always bashing the cops. Her dad was a drug addict all those years growing up, and she had no idea because mom hid that side of him from her. But you can't hide everything, because Yolanda saw for herself his behaviors and how he showed all the signs of a drug abuser, but because she was a young girl, she wasn't consciously aware of what those signs were, so she absorbed most of those signs subconsciously. She loved her dad very much. It was because she loved him that she started attracting the same type later on when she grew up to become a woman and started attracting people with all the same attributes. So there we had it, the root of the problem. The only way to prevent that weed from growing again, no pun intended, was to start at the roots. So I helped her to release her old associations and what she found to be attractive traits and helped her to associate new, healthier traits that were still true to her personality and what she wanted. Last I checked, she was in a happy, healthy relationship, and he definitely wasn't a drug addict. So let me wrap up this second shift of understanding your relationship, which takes us into our first shift. You already have the experience of being in a relationship. Now you have the knowledge to keep it together. Once you have these, you'll reach a point of understanding. Our third shift is realizing and finding strength in your differences. So that means trying to change your partner will only backfire on you, so don't do it. So the question is, how do you change your partner? How do you get them to do what's right? The answer is, you don't. That is, unless of course they're doing something that hurts you or is illegal, then you don't. Instead, it's better to inspire them to learn, grow, and evolve in a healthier direction that still supports their difference from you and stays true to their personality. I mean, let's face it, you fell in love with their differences. To try to change them to be more like you would actually have the opposite effect that you intended. So the only way to inspire them to grow in a healthier direction is by first supporting their difference and then by being the example. This doesn't mean that you have to act like something you're not, because remember, you're trying to get them to do something that you like. So that just means that you have to set the example, and by consistently being that example and allowing them to see the benefits of the example, you inspire them to take on those same traits. With of course a few hints dropped every here and there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't try to push them to change or to do something that's outside of their own personal comfort zone. So that means supporting them in their unique personality and allowing them to stay true to it. So are you starting to see where this is going? Are you starting to see the old ways of doing things and fixing your relationship just don't apply anymore? What's the very first thing you think of when you need to fix your relationship? You think of a therapist, but not just any therapist. You want to find a therapist that accepts your insurance. So already you've greatly limited your options of finding a good therapist that'll actually have some kind of a positive impact on your relationship. And when you do find a therapist, how have your experiences been with them? Did they actually help you solve their problems in a quick and efficient way? No, of course not. If they did, then you wouldn't be here. All they did was to listen to you vent and occasionally chime in every here and there and ask, and how does that make you feel? It makes me feel like you can't help me, Doc. That's how it makes me feel. Other relationship coaches. Good for one-on-one work, but they never really get down to the root of the problem because all they do is work to solve the myriad of surface problems. When you work with surface problems, those solutions are only going to last for so long. Then back come all their old problems again, but this time it's different problems. So the therapists and the coaches didn't really work for me. Let's try some books this time. That should do the trick, right? So you read through several books and what do you find? A whole bunch of info that doesn't apply to your unique relationship and problem because it's so generalized you have no idea how to apply it to your situation. One book says one thing, another book says another thing, and all it does is leave you with more questions than it does answers. So you're frustrated with the small guns. Now it's time to bring in the big guns. So you seek out the big name experts out there and you attend their seminars. You're sitting in the audience and you're hearing some awesome public speakers and you're hearing some really great stories, and it makes you think, wow, they really know their stuff. So you can't wait to get home and apply that wisdom to your relationship. So you zip home in a flash, you kick the door in, and it hits you. You have no idea what you're going to say or do to change your situation because you know that 1, not only do you not remember most of what they said, but 2, you have no idea how to apply what you do remember to your relationship. So by this time you're lost and alone and you feel that there's no hope. So you dabble in the occasional YouTube videos every here and there and you pick up only bits and pieces that doesn't really seem to fit into what your unique situation applies. And you gotta remember, these people pump out videos to make money off of the ads and sponsorships, so they're not going to provide any real information that's going to fix your problem or apply to your situation. And a lot of the videos were done by people who weren't experts in the first place. And just like the books, they too are filled with conflicting information. So let me ask you, does this make sense to you? You go to a therapist that makes you feel like you might as well be talking to a brick wall. You tried the square peg in a round hole approach with other relationship coaches. You've read through a library of books, attended the cool and all too entertaining seminars, and you've watched your fill of YouTube. And where does all that leave you? Having to put all the puzzle pieces together, and you're left with more questions than answers. But this is the way of doing things. When I was younger, I did all the same waste of time crap, and none of it actually fixed the problem that I was having. It wasn't until I became an effective hypnotherapist that I discovered the new way, and that actually gets to the root of all these problems and prevents them from happening in the first place. So here's the new way that I discovered. You and your relationship are like a big tree. Each leaf on that tree is a surface problem. An argument over the dishes, a tiff over the way they misinterpreted something, and on it goes. What holds up those leaves, those surface problems, are the small sticks. These are your thoughts. What you think about that you haven't quite figured out a way to put into words yet. The twigs of this tree, what holds up those thoughts, are your emotions. How you feel deep down that you haven't been able to bring up to the conscious mind where you can think and process those emotions. All your surface problems, thoughts, and emotions are held up by a large branch, your perspective. How you perceive the situation and the world around you. Then you get down to the trunk. That's you holding up the weight of all those perspectives, emotions, thoughts, and problems. And you're filled with veins and arteries that carries the nutrients to all those branches, twigs, and all the way up to the leaves and all the way back down again. That tree is covered in defensive bark to ward off a variety of invaders. What kind of defensive armor do you have? And where do those nutrients you're feeding all that stuff come from? The roots. Your roots absorb everything from the earth around you, everything that's been taught to you or that you've learned yourself. Some of those elements you absorbed are good, some are bad. And all the while you were absorbing things and passing it all the way up to those trees and all the way back down again. This is the new way. This is what I do. In order for those problems to be fixed, you have to first understand yourself all the way down to the roots. Then you can work your way down to your partner's roots, and again down to your relationship's roots. Once you understand one another, those problems just cease to exist. You are a unique tree, and so is your partner. And remember, you fell in love with each other's differences. Here's how to fall in love with those differences all over again. You have strong attributes to your personality your partner doesn't have, and your partner has strong attributes to their personality that you don't have. Take a look at you and your partner's hands. Each finger is an attribute that you have, and they have their own attributes that you don't have. Maybe you're outgoing and social and talkative, and on the other hand, maybe your partner is more reserved and listens to the conversation and only chimes in every here and there when they think they have something worth saying. Remember, each finger on each partner's hand is an attribute. Now the space between those fingers is where you and your partner lack something. You're talkative, but they're more quiet. Or they're well-planned and you're spontaneous. Bring those together in a relationship and you'll see that you make up for where they lack and they make up for where you lack. But together, you're no longer working at it as individuals, but a more well-rounded entity that has all attributes that one could have. When you start to not only accept but to support and encourage your partner's differences, they will do the same for you. It's when you finally understand yourself, your partner, and your relationship that suddenly stops the cycle of them pulling away and you feeling rejected as a result. And not only it stops the cycle, but it reverses it so you can start to work together again. I'll tell you about my client Kate. Kate was also a therapist, but the problem that she was having was it was too difficult for her to receive love and affection from her husband and even from her kids. When they would give her a hug, each and every time she would feel stiff, uncomfortable, and downright disgusted. So this was obviously a very unnatural response to a very natural action. So as usual, I started with her and worked my way all the way down to her roots when she was an adolescent. She was sexually abused when she was growing up, and she knew that if she were to tell her mother, she would never believe her if she were to tell her what happened. So she didn't, and she kept it in. When she was done with school, she didn't know what she wanted to do with her life, so she just went with where life took her, and that was to drugs to cover up the pain and trauma she had suffered through when she was younger. To make money and pay the bills, she started selling drugs and even went so far as to hurt and threaten people's lives when they didn't fall in line with what she ordered them to do. Her trauma turned her into a mean, ruthless, and out-of-control young woman. So when she had had enough of that lifestyle, she checked herself into rehab and finally got her life together, went to school to learn psychology, and was very proud to call herself a therapist. But there was still this lingering problem that she had with her inability to receive love and affection from her family she created. This is when she came in to see me. I helped her to get down to the roots and to remove the guilt she had carried with her from her time as a drug dealer and how bad she felt when looking back at all the people she had hurt as a result. This is why she felt disgusted when receiving a simple hug, because she felt she didn't deserve it. When we were done, she was about to walk into my office when she gave me a hug with tears in her eyes that was rolling down the back of my neck when she said, "Oh my God, I don't feel disgusted." We were laughing together and I told her, "Now go home and give your husband and your kids a big hug, tell them you love them, and each and every time they hug you back, you'll forevermore feel deserving and wonderful." And she did. She was an absolutely wonderful client and we both really enjoyed working with each other. To wrap up the third shift in realizing and finding strength in your differences, now you have the knowledge of your differences. Experience the differences you have together to reach that point of understanding. To recap what we talked about so far, you discover the secret formula to relationships is knowledge plus experience equals understanding. You learned how to better understand yourself and your partner. I walked you through the old way and the new way of fixing your relationship by using the tree analogy. And I explained and demonstrated how to recognize and find strength in you and your partner's differences. Now we're going to talk about how to take that information and not only use it to fix your relationship, but how to take it to the next level. And that means fixing your relationship isn't good enough. And that takes us into our fourth shift. Other therapists and relationship coaches work to fix the relationship, but that's not good enough for me. Fixing the relationship is great and all, but if you just stop there, it will only keep you in the plateau stage where you're just in a boring daily routine. To be able to fall in love all over again, you have to put the work into really understanding one another deep down. This is what creates unconditional love, the purest form of love there is. When you understand yourself, your partner, and your relationship, things just start to work again. That means all the little problems that used to build up till you got into an argument just seem to vanish. And you start to work together again in a natural way that easily flows. It's like you're reintroduced to that person that you fell in love with in the first place, and that you love each other more because of it. Do you remember how you felt when your relationship was brand new? You were excited, joyful, and felt the most wonderful you ever felt. One partner was in emotional bliss, feeling absolutely loved, and the other partner felt like somebody finally gets them, and they feel understood and accepted. It's a great place to be in your relationship. But do you think it stops there? Think again. As we live, grow, mature, and evolve, so too does our relationship. As we mature, our relationship matures. If we're left alone as our relationship grows, sometimes we start to grow in separate directions away from each other. But it doesn't have to be this way. To ensure you stay together and grow in the same direction, you need to take your relationship to the next level. You need to do the simple maintenance and preventative work. You have to prepare for the next level of your relationship. And that means before you move in together, you want to make sure that your lifestyles and routines mesh. Before you get married, you have to talk about several things like your finances, morals, politics, outlook on life, and your expectations, and so on. Before you have kids, how do you plan to parent and raise them? These are some of the things you need to talk about before jumping into the next stage of your relationship. And usually one partner is all too eager to talk about all these things, then that leaves the other partner scared and intimidated into thinking they have to make some sort of a huge lifestyle change, or like they have to make a huge commitment. But done properly and communicated effectively, it takes the threat out of those ideas, and you're able to easily accomplish all these things so your relationship can make that smooth and natural transition to the next stage and beyond. Take my clients Tom and Amber for example. In the beginning, they were both madly in love with each other, and they both felt like they had met the love of their lives. But the relationship settled, and so too did their love for one another. Tom would return to his work and would get so caught up and lost to the point Amber was feeling rejected as a result. She wanted to start a family with Tom, but he was too busy procrastinating and coming up with excuses, and all that did was sabotage her efforts and leaving her feeling alone in her struggle and unsupported. So naturally her instinct was to push Tom into showing her more time and more affection. He did this for a short while, but it never lasted, and he just went back to his usual seclusion. Amber knew that if things didn't change in their relationship and soon, that it would eventually lead them down a dark path of unfulfillment and resentment, where all hope for reviving that situation would be lost. And she was right. By the time she contacted me and we discussed the situation, I knew that in order to fix their problems and get them back on track again, they would need to better understand one another, and they agreed. In that process, she didn't realize that she suddenly stopped feeling rejected because Tom was finally starting to pay more attention to her again. Not because he was forced to, but because he wanted to, because he discovered in her Amber's inner workings. It inspired in him the motivation to continue, and they found a new meaning in the love that they shared with each other. They not only stopped the cycle of rejection, but they reversed it, and they started effectively communicating with each other again. And soon after, she was pregnant with their first child, and Tom was excited to become a father for the very first time. So by following my simple direction and example, they were able to take the relationship to the next level. The secret formula to relationships wraps up the fourth shift. Take the knowledge I just shared with you and put it together with the experience of your relationship so you can understand how to take it to the next level. The fifth and last shift you need to make in your relationship is invest in a support system. A good and effective support system fosters two things: different perspectives and accountability. Here's how it works. Our perspective on life, your current situation, and the outcome you think possible is the foundation of everything that comes after. Your perspective sponsors the kind of thoughts that you have. If you're fearful, you're going to experience more fear. If you're hopeful, you're going to experience more hope. Your thoughts sponsors what you plan to happen. How you choose to manifest those plans depends on the kind of thoughts and feelings you have. Your plans sponsors the kind of actions you take, if any. If you don't feel confident about your perspective, thoughts, and plans, you'll never take action. And finally, your outcome is dependent on all previous steps. If the 4 previous steps aren't built on a solid foundation, the outcome has the potential to be out of your control. So you can either continue to let life happen to you, or you get a good support system to help you take control of your life so you make life happen. So outcome depends on action, depends on plans, depends on thoughts, depends on perspective. If you're not in a good situation in your relationship, you need to get a new perspective, new thoughts, a new plan, and accountability. Really, you need a support system. A support system that supports you in the right way brings about endless opportunities. A good support system is someone to show you the way, someone to take your hand and walk with you, someone to pick you up and carry you when you can't walk for yourself, someone to teach you and your partner how to support each other instead of just annoying each other, and someone to show you how to take your relationship to the next level, like moving in together, getting married, starting a family, etc. An expert who understands your unique relationship and your unique problems and how to overcome them so you can have that healthy relationship you've always dreamed of. In closing the last of the 5 shifts to fixing your relationship and falling in love all over again, a good support system shows you how to put the knowledge and together with your experience so you can fully understand. So today, I promise to give you the simple formula to understanding yourself, your partner, and your relationship without having a degree in psychology or reading 1,000 books. How to recognize and find strength in you and your partner's differences, even if you think you have nothing in common or like your personalities are like night and day. What my clients did to put a stop to feeling rejected in their relationship, and how they turned it around to work in their favor, even when they thought there was no hope. I showed you how to break through that brick wall of trying to change your partner so you can finally feel like you're on the same page working together instead of against each other. What you need to do to fall in love with each other all over again and take it to the next level even if your relationship is currently in the trauma stage. And how to finally ease the loneliness and move from roommates back to soulmates even if you've been drifting apart for months. Here's what you need to win. First is the secret formula to relationships is knowledge plus experience equals understanding. 2. Understanding your relationship. 3. Recognize and find strength in you and your partner's differences. 4. Take your relationship to the next level and beyond. And 5. Invest in a support system. These 5 shifts alone are enough to live your dream relationship. Now you have a choice. You can either take all that knowledge that I just shared with you and forget about it. You can continue to struggle and to understand your partner and let argument after argument tear you apart until you finally break up. You can continue to feel rejected as your partner pulls away into seclusion. You can fall asleep tonight feeling powerless and depressed knowing that you're just going to wake up tomorrow and stress again. Or, if you want to finally understand the unique inner workings of yourself, your partner, and your relationship, so you can finally live that dream relationship you dared to dream, that healthy Romeo and Juliet type of love, then here's what I have for you. I've set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your relationship starting today. Whatever your biggest challenges are, I've seen it and I know how to overcome it. On this session, I will work with you to craft a step-by-step guide to understanding, fixing, and living your dream relationship, and how to take your relationship to the next level. The cost is absolutely free. But this is not for everyone. I'm very picky about who I choose to work with. You must be in an established, committed, and monogamous relationship. If you're in a long-distance relationship, sorry, but I can't do anything to move you two closer, so I can't work with you. Both you and your partner must have a desire to put in the work to understand and fix your relationship. You must be an action taker who's coachable, decisive, and follows through on direction. If that's you, then book a session now. I'm sure you must be wondering why I'm doing this. I do this because I have a built-in, deep-down, unquenchable desire to help people and couples in need of problem-solving and healing. That's why I chose to become a therapist, because people naturally gravitated toward me with their problems because I was genuine in my compassion and they found that I was really good at providing effective solutions. And when I do, I feel absolutely wonderful as a result. What brings fulfillment and happiness to my life is bringing fulfillment and happiness to yours. Plus, I know that you might want my help in transforming your relationship. If so, we can discuss it and see if it's a good fit for the both of us. If not, that's cool too. So head on over to fixmyrelationship.today/apply. So there's no .com in there, it's just fixmyrelationship.today/apply. These spaces usually fill up pretty fast, so be sure to reserve your free relationship breakthrough session today so you don't miss out. So I'll close this webinar by telling you about my very first client who came to me with help with their relationship and why I chose this to be my specialty. I was walking out of the parking lot of the college and office of hypnotherapy I went to in Tarzana one day when I was approached by a guy close to my age who was looking for where the hypnotherapy office was so we could hire a therapist. I mentioned I'm a hypnotherapist and I asked him what he was looking to accomplish in therapy. And then he unloaded this laundry list of things that was affecting him in his relationship. He said he was feeling rejected because his girlfriend stopped getting undressed in front of him and would ask him to look away when she got out of bed. She wasn't responding to his text messages in a timely manner he would send to her every here and there, and would sometimes not even respond at all. And on the list went. With all the things he was explaining, I was hearing a common theme that was running his emotional response of feeling rejected. I had so much empathy for him and what he was going through and feeling because I had went through the same things in my relationships in the past too. So I gave him a piece of advice that one day that my friend gave me one day so long ago that helped me to stop feeling rejected. My friend was an actor, and as with any acting career, you're going to go through a lot of auditions and get rejected from the vast majority of them. He explained to me that he was always going to be either too tall or too short, too muscular or too thin, too attractive or not attractive enough. He wasn't going to play the part the exact way the casting director imagined and get rejected as a result. He explained that he can either walk back down to his car in the parking lot and cry behind the wheel of his car, or he could finally realize that none of that stuff had anything to do with him, but rather had everything to do with the casting director. It wasn't him that they were rejecting. It had nothing to do with him. Rather, it had everything to do with the casting director and exactly what they wanted. So he hired me, and after a few weeks of working with him, he thanked me for helping him to see things from a different perspective and to see reality for what it actually was and not what he imagined it was. So just like him, I too had the same experiences and more in my previous relationships. I've been there before and I've gone through all the same things you're going through right now. What better thing to choose to work with than relationships so I could help my clients to find the light at the end of the path that I found as well. Wow, you're actually still here listening to me blather on? Go to my website, fixmyrelationship.today/apply and book your call already. My love to you all. Thank you.